Hey everyone, today we are diving into a book that honestly has been a total game changer for millions of people when it comes to money. We're talking about Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We're going to unpack the core ideas that just might flip your whole perspective on wealth.
Right off the bat, Kiyosaki hits you with the central idea of the entire book, and it comes from the two father figures in his life. His poor dad, his biological father, gave him pretty standard advice. Study hard so you can find a good company to work for. But his rich dad, his friend's father, said something completely different. Study hard so you can find a good company to buy. It's a subtle change in words, but it's a massive shift in mindset. It's the difference between being an employee and being an owner.
So here's our game plan for today. We'll start by looking at those two different worldviews. Then we'll get into the big idea of making money work for you. After that, we'll talk about how you do that by building assets. We'll also cover what's holding you back, and then, most importantly, your very first steps.
Okay, so let's dig into these two dads. Kiyosaki's poor dad was super educated, a PhD, a pillar of the community with a good, steady job, but he was always struggling with money. Now, his rich dad dropped out of school in the 8th grade, but went on to become a self-made millionaire. So what gives? It wasn't about brains or a fancy degree. It all came down to how they thought about money.
And this right here. This is the core difference. The poor dad's go-to phrase was, "I can't afford it." And when you say that, what happens? Your brain just shuts down. End of story. But the rich dad would ask a question. How can I afford it? That question forces your brain to switch on, to start looking for solutions, to get creative. It's the difference between a dead end and a new beginning.
So that mindset, that questioning, leads directly to the single most important lesson in the whole book. This is the idea that really separates the wealthy from, well, everyone else. And spoiler alert, it has nothing to do with working harder. It's about a fundamental shift in your relationship with money.
And there it is. That's the secret sauce. Most people spend their lives trading their time for a paycheck. We work, we get paid. But the rich, they do it differently. They build or buy things that generate money all by themselves. Their money becomes their hardest working employee, an employee that works 24/7 and never complains.
But why are most people stuck in that first category, working for money? Kiyosaki calls it the rat race. You know the feeling, right? It's this endless loop driven by two emotions, fear and greed. The fear of not paying your bills keeps you showing up to a job you might not even like. And then, when you get a raise, greed or desire kicks in. You buy a bigger house, a nicer car. Your expenses creep up to meet your new income, and you're right back where you started, just on a slightly fancier hamster wheel.
This chart shows it perfectly. For most people, income from their job flows in one door, and right out the other to pay for taxes, the mortgage, car payments, you name it. And what's left at the end of the month to actually build wealth? Often, it's a big fat zero. The money never stays long enough to work for them. It just passes through. Okay, so if the rat race is the problem, what's the escape plan? This next part is all about the strategy to get off that hamster wheel. And it really just comes down to understanding one simple but life-changing rule.
Here it is, the first half of the golden rule. An asset is simply anything that puts money in your pocket. Forget all the complicated financial jargon you've heard. If it's making you money, it's an asset. Simple as that.
And on the flip side, we have a liability. A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. A car payment, credit card debt, you get the idea. And this is the whole game, right here. The rich focus all their energy on buying assets. The poor and middle class, they spend their lives acquiring liabilities that they think are assets.
So what kind of assets are we talking about here? Well, things like businesses you own that don't need you there every day, or stocks and bonds that pay you dividends, or a big one, real estate that generates rental income. The common theme? All of these things create cash flow that goes straight into your pocket.
Now, get ready for the controversial one, the one that makes everybody argue. Your house, the one you live in, Kiyosaki says it's not an asset. And why? Because every single month it's taking money out of your pocket for the mortgage, for taxes, for insurance, for repairs. It doesn't put money in your pocket, so by his definition, it's actually your biggest liability.
All right, so if the rules are really that simple, buy assets, don't buy liabilities, then why isn't everybody rich? Because knowing what to do is just the first step. The real challenge is overcoming all the stuff inside our own heads that holds us back.
Kiyosaki points to 5 main culprits. First up, and this one's huge, is fear. Specifically, the fear of losing money. Then there's disbelief or cynicism, that little voice in your head saying, yeah, right, like that could ever work for me. Third is laziness, which usually disguises itself as being too busy. Fourth, you've got bad habits, like paying all your bills before you invest anything for yourself. And finally, arrogance, the trap of thinking you've got it all figured out already.
This quote just hits so hard, especially about that fear factor. People play it so safe because they're terrified of losing. But by playing it safe, they've already lost. They've lost any chance of winning big because they never even got in the game.
Okay, we've gone through the mindset, the core lessons, the obstacles. Now for the part that really matters. What do you do now? How do you actually start? This last section is all about getting the ball rolling today. Here are 5 things you can do to get started. First, you need a powerful why, a reason that will drag you out of bed and keep you going when things get tough. Second, make a choice to learn something new every day. Third, and this is non-negotiable, learn to pay yourself first. That means before you pay any bills, you put money toward your assets. Fourth, find financial heroes you admire and study what they did. And fifth, teach others what you're learning. It's one of the best ways to make the knowledge stick. But really, it all comes down to this. Knowledge is useless without action. You can read 100 books, but nothing will change until you take that first step. You have to start moving before you can build any momentum. Action always beats inaction.
So we'll end with this. This is the question that Rich Dad Poor Dad leaves you with. Every single dollar you have is a choice. Every financial decision you make is a vote for the kind of future you want. You are constantly building one of 2 things. So what's it going to be? What will you build today? An asset or a liability?